Hello, this is S.K. Williams, and today I'm going to speak to you about a topic because while this is actually an exercise in helping me learn to animate better, I never really liked doing those as one-offs that I do nothing but, walk around. And while I have done some where that's really the case, where I just walk around, you will notice that I at least add music or something to make it a little more interesting and a bit of a narrative. Well, today I'm going to do a bit of a commentary. This is not my official commentary for my commentary series, it's just something I enjoy doing. So, I thought I would give a go at talking about a subject. And that subject is going to be Christianity and Environmentalism. A topic that actually deserves a much longer video and much longer commentary, which I hope to one day be able to accomplish. But for now, as this is a test video, I'm just going to give unfiltered, unrehearsed, unscripted thoughts on the topic in brief. And the concern that I have, and the topic of this video, is that a lot of people seem to be suffering under the impression that one cannot be both an environmentalist and a Christian. That Christianity is inherently opposed to any environmental concerns, or at least opposed to major concerns that are held in the environmental movement. I'm actually concerned about this because there are people on either end of the proverbial aisle who share this view, in fact. There are, of course, many critics of Christianity who hold this view and are very critical of Christianity because it leads inevitably to mistreatment of the environment, which will, of course, have detrimental effects on the world and upon human civilization. But there are also Christians who legitimately don't care about environmental concerns and think that the dangers are overstated. So, this is one of those issues in which the critics of Christianity do at least make a fair point. There are many instances in which they don't, but this is one in which they do. However, the point is not quite as fair as they would like to believe it is, because in reality, there are many Christians who are, in fact, environmentalists. Environmental concern is not really as foreign to Christianity as some seem to wish it to be, or who imagine it to be. And the idea that God created the earth specifically for man, and that man may do with it as he pleases, isn't really something believed in by the majority of Christians. In fact, even some who believe something similar to that don't genuinely believe quite that thing. They believe that the world was indeed created for man, sure, but they do think that there are limits and wise uses of resources rather than simply being able to exploit them without any recompense. But they still don't necessarily believe that man-made objects like cars and factories are damaging the environment. They are simply unconvinced that humanity is having that much of an impact on the weather, and do believe that God made the world to be better put together than that, and that these things that are being criticized, like factories and vehicles, are things that drive economies and bring freedom. You see, a lot of the things that drive Christians who reject environmental concerns are more based on other factors rather than just the Bible. They are basing it on conservatism as it is understood in the modern world, which is heavily linked with capitalism and the idea of individual freedom through material possessions, which isn't really a Christian concept. It's not really how historical Christians believed things, but it is what a lot of people associate Christianity with today. And to a large extent, this is exactly what we're seeing. They view the environmental movement as an attempt at foisting socialism and eroding personal freedom, rather than being about genuine problems that the world is facing. So to them it's more of a political problem rather than a theological one. And nonetheless, there are a lot of Christians, and I don't just mean liberal Christians, there are plenty of traditional and even conservative Christians who actually do accept that the environment is being harmed in a bad way. And it's not really true that Christians are completely negligent on this issue. Many Christians are, in fact, very dedicated to alleviating harm, and they see no actual contradiction between concern for their environment and their religious faith, because they do not believe that man can do whatever they want to the earth, either because they believe that man was charged with being good stewards of the creation, even if it was made for man, or because they never really believed it was made for man in the first place, and God is simply supposed to care for it on behalf of God. Either way, it is not really true that Christians are uniformly, or even in the majority, hostile to environmental concern, and many are, in fact, environmentalists. But that's the thing. A lot of people simply wish to perpetuate the idea that Christianity and modern environmental concerns are incompatible. And they do this for their own motives. With certain Christian groups, it is because they wish to promote a certain political narrative that our modern world has decided to call conservative, although that label isn't entirely accurate, but for now we'll roll with it. And they want you to associate being a Christian with being a conservative, such as in America, how we know the Christians vote Republican, even though in reality many people who consider themselves Christian vote Democrat. It is a cultural convention. And they want you to understand that being a Christian means holding certain values, which is true, but they want to equate those values with political values, such as being pro-big business, for the development of factories, for free market capitalism, and things along those lines. And of course, you can't really have that individual liberty with individual responsibility mentality based around a capitalist and consumerist view if the things that you are consuming are effectively damaging the earth. And you also can't have an understanding that the entire earth is here to be exploited as a gigantic economic resource solely for the benefit of man, if you accept that man can damage it and it is morally irresponsible to do so. But instead of coming up with a coherent narrative on their own, they simply say, the Bible teaches, this is what God said, it is true, and if you're a Christian, you agree with it. And that actually plays into the hands of the atheist movement. And I'm not saying this of all atheists, just, the Richard Dawkins type. And it plays into the hands of various anti-Christians who want to vilify Christians because they can point to that and say, see, the Christians teach this, it's bad. But they have a vested interest as well, because they don't want you to know that being a Christian does not automatically mean that you believe that. They want to foster the idea that all Christians are conservative. They want to foster the idea that conservative means being an irresponsible, reckless capitalist who puts profit above people. They want you to believe that being a Christian means exploitation of the environment, which will inevitably bring doom, because it is an easy way of vilifying Christians. And that's sort of the point. We have these mental associations that both sides, while enemies, tend to want to foster because it is mutually beneficial to their ends. Because both sides see the reinforcement of the idea as beneficial to them. So, while they are opposed to each other on other fronts, they both maintain this image so that they can have a structured debate with clear delineated sides, and so that people can join one side or the other. But it's unfair for those who don't really agree with either side. And in reality, you can be a Christian and support the environment. And in fact, you can be conservative and be into the environmental movement. You can be a conservative Christian with conservative theology and support environmentalism. There is really nothing inherent in the Christian faith that would say otherwise. And I think it's really unfair that people should be expected to make that choice, or that they should be judged unfairly against it. Nonetheless, this is the world we live in which we make such an assumption. And I don't think we really should. I think we should stop making this association. With that said, I don't really have much more to add. Like I said, this is more of a video testing my animation prowess as well as my editing process. This commentary is more filler to make it more entertaining. I don't think I did a very good job on elaborating on my thoughts on this issue. I would normally be much better, even unscripted flow of consciousness better, but for some reason I'm a bit off today, and I apologize for that to anyone who listens. Nonetheless, I shall conclude the video now. Thank you, God bless, and goodbye.